just wanted to give you a warm welcome to the Mental Health Support Team's launch event. This was planned about 7 to 9 months ago, and I think we were going to have an all singing, all dancing, face to face in a big room celebration together. But since since COVID happened, we've had to make a lot of changes and adjustments. So instead of a morning event, we are going to try and sort of condense it down to an hour and a half, and hopefully we'll get an opportunity to share with you all the great work that the team have been undertaking in the past year, and also share some of the ideas and thoughts we've got of moving forward. So we've tried to make it as creative as we can and as visual as we can to make sure that we sort of can keep everybody engaged. And if there's any questions that anyone would like to ask throughout the presentations, feel free to ask us on the chat function. So there is, if you move your mouse around, there's a bar that comes up at the bottom of your screen, and there's a speech bubble with chat in it. So we have got members of the team that are going to be answering questions as we go along. However, during the break, there will be time for questions just beforehand as well. Can we go on to the agenda, please? Thank you. So first up, we've got the team presentation, which will highlight, the team will go through and just highlight sort of what we have been up to in this past year. Mental health support teams were launched in East Staffordshire in September 2019, and we had a training year, so the team have been in a training functioning in a training capacity for the past year, and we're now at a point where we will be going live full time for the schools involved in the mental health support team. So the team will give you some insight into that. We'll then have a break and questions, and then we'll be getting some feedback from the school mental health leads and the experiences they've had in this past year. We'll just go through some of the service user feedback that we've had. We've got Neil who's joined us this morning, and he's going to say a few words about the project, and we'll give you some insight sort of to close the session off of what we've got planned for the week ahead. So I'm going to hand over to Leanne, and Leanne's kindly just stepped in this morning to do this next bit. So go for it, Leanne.
Morning, everybody. So first of all, we're going to go to meet the team, if we can. Brilliant. So we have got quite a big team. We've got Camelia, who's a trainee systemic family therapist. We've got our hardworking team secretary, Carol. We've got Saab, who's our team leader. Jenny, the primary mental health worker, along with Aisha. And then we've got the 8 of us, which are the EMHP. So if we could go along again. So there's myself and Sarah, Bridie and Natalie, Sarah and Zara, Izzy and Christina. And as you'll see, underneath each of our names, there's a box with different schools in. We all have a mixture of secondaries, primaries, middle schools that we're dealing with. So we deal with a various age range across the board, really. So how we support mental health in schools. So there's the whole school approach. A mentally healthy school is one that adopts a whole school approach to mental health and wellbeing. And that includes working with external agencies such as ourselves. We work closely, and we've been building these relationships with the designated school mental health leads. We offer support through evidence-based, low-intensity CBT one-to-one sessions, telephone appointments, parent sessions, small group sessions, whole class education, school staff workshops and assemblies. And this, hopefully, what we can offer will continue to grow. So our journey to becoming education mental health practitioners. Sorry guys, we seem to have
Sorry, we can't hear you.
So I'm just going to talk a little about what our training year looked like. So just to sort of talk you through as a brief snapshot. So in excuse me, September through to November, we were at university quite a lot. So we were attending university there, and we were also building lots of ideas, sort of building ourselves together as a team. We were researching the schools. And then in December time is when we got our fitness to practice at university. So we did lots of role plays and were able to then start working officially in schools, which is what we started doing then in sort of January, February time. We started introducing ourselves to schools, meeting the staff. We also started receiving referrals around this time as well. So then in March was when we mainly started doing assessments and treatment sessions with children and young people. And then obviously March as well, towards the back end, is when the virus hit. So then we all kind of worked from home and started working remotely during the lockdown. So we had to sort of work in a more creative way, doing telephone sessions and video calls. We also had to get a little bit more creative with our resources. And also this was a good opportunity to grow our social media platforms as well. Then through in August, we finished our university, and so we're all now finished our training year and are awaiting the results from university. And so I just wanted to talk slightly about what we did in our training year in terms of the modules during university. So we had 4 different modules. The first one focused on assessment and engagement. So that was sort of like learning about how to assess children, engagement skills, therapeutic relationships, assessing risk. And then our second module was all about the treatment interventions. So this was all about supporting families, children and young people through the low intensity evidence-based interventions. So they're sort of things informed by CBT principles, such as behavioural activation, exposure work, problem solving, sleep management. And this is all sort of around the low mood and anxiety, some conduct related difficulties as well through parent work. And then the other 2 of our modules were more education based. So these looked at working within the education context, so adapting our work to this environment, some of the challenges we might face, and with particular reference as well to that whole school approach of mental health. So sort of also staff training and peer mentoring. So that's just a brief snapshot of what we've been doing this year in our past training year.
Thanks, Bridie. Over to Natalie.
Okay, so I just want to talk a little bit about some of the work that we've been doing in schools up to this point. So obviously, as Bridie mentioned, we've been doing one-to-one sessions. These were largely face-to-face initially, but now we've gone to remote working. So we're doing a lot of work over one consultation, which allows people to come into a waiting room, and then we can conduct our session, our assessment or treatment session that way. We've also been doing some telephone work within schools as well, and so we're quite happy to adapt to working in that way and doing what suits the school best. We've also set up a database of resources and different things that we can do. So we've adapted materials to suit the different needs of our clients. We've built up our own resources over time and collected a huge bank of those. what we find is that sometimes when we're working with clients that they may need to be signposted, so we may need to step up to CAMS, or what we've created is a database of services that we can signpost them to. So if we feel that we are unable to support them, or we're maybe not the best service to support, then we will signpost to other people such as Action for Children or Harvey Girls, just to name a couple. We've started doing some work around staff training. So we've put together various sessions which are virtual sessions at the moment. So we've recorded videos that schools can use. We have done some face-to-face work, and hopefully in the future that's something that we'll be doing again. But for now, we're happy to provide schools with resources, to send them packs, to send them videos that they can use in class or for staff training. What we've started doing as well is liaising with school nurses, and we're hoping that this is going to be, that this kind of collaborative work is something that we're going to be doing a lot of over the coming months, because obviously it's important that we work with different people to support the child as much as possible, or the young person as much as possible. Something else we've been doing is working with wellbeing ambassadors. So some of us have gone into schools and we've been sitting in on meetings with wellbeing ambassadors from sixth form, and they are supporting younger pupils with their mental health. And that's something that we want to become more a part of in supporting older pupils to support younger pupils. We've attended some parents' evenings as well, so that's been a really good opportunity, and we want to carry on doing that at some point, of talking about the service with parents, discussing the whole school approach and finding out what kind of things parents would like to see happening as well. It's been a brilliant opportunity to give out some of our resources to parents too. And then, very importantly, we've made strong links with the mental health leads within schools, and we want to continue to keep those links going and to build on those relationships, and to work with teachers, because it's very important that teachers are sometimes part of the young person's treatment, and they can support in some ways in the classroom.
Thanks, Nat. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about how we've applied university assignments to our role specifically. So we would set assignments throughout our whole training, and then we kind of approached these assignments to meet the IAPT principles. So IAPT is improving access to psychological therapies, and there are 5 principles to that. So raising awareness of mental health and mental health provision, accessibility and participation for all the service users, so they can help shape services that they use, and that they, you know, understand what services offer. Excuse me. Using evidence-based approaches to treatment, so everything's kind of based on data and has rationale behind it. And holding ourselves accountable to deliver the best possible service for our service users. So we're specifically part of CYP, or Children and Young People's IAPT. So within our assignments, we tackled these principles, so awareness and participation. We made a leaflet introducing our team for young people, but also telling how we can support parents, what we cover specifically, you can see on that second page of this leaflet, and how we do it. So this leaflet was created by us content-wise and then reviewed by young people. So that was the participation element to it. Young people were able to say what they liked and what they didn't like about the look of the leaflet. So we were making it really appealing to them. As far as accessibility goes, Children and Young People's IAPT is based on adult IAPT, and you can see up in the top left corner here, this is one of the resources for adult IAPT, and it's a little bit boring really. So to make our resources more accessible for young people, some of us have created resources. As you can see, it's a bit more exciting, so it's the same thing but maybe more engaging for a younger person, more child friendly. In terms of accountability, Nat already mentioned kind of monitoring and signposting to local and national resources. So for one of our assignments, we made a database and we keep that up to date. So we know that if we're not the right people to support young people or their families, or if they're having more specific difficulties alongside what we can help with, that we're sending them in the right direction. And then as far as evidence-based approaches goes, all our interventions, as we've said, have evidence behind them to support how effective they are. And as Leanne mentioned at the beginning, the whole school approach. So we were carrying out audits for our university work, and we collected data from interviews with staff, doing observations of students, and also sort of setting you know, questionnaires and things with evidence base behind them to compare them to other young people their age, so that we can offer approaches that actually fit into an individual school's setting, basically.
So now I'm going to talk about the clinical practice, so how many clinical hours we have completed in our training year and how many children and young people we have reached. Okay, so these are all our hours as our MHPs from March to August. So it's in 6 months we've completed 187 hours of assessment, 344 hours of treatment, 195 hours of whole school approach. This is all the time that we've spent liaising with the schools and doing things in the schools. It would have been greater if we didn't have a lockdown, but we did try our best to, even when the schools were closed, to keep schools in the loop. And then we received 343 hours of supervision to make sure that everything we were doing was evidence-based and good practice. And then in terms of the children and young people that we have supported, it's been 84 children and young people that we have offered treatment and they have recovered. And then 83 children and young people that we have assessed, and we have either signposted because our service wasn't appropriate for them at the moment, or they haven't finished treatment. So now we're going to present a few case studies. There are just some examples of children and young people that we have offered support to, how they've progressed. So the first one, it was a 15-year-old male presenting with low mood and suicidal ideation, and this was leading to self-isolation. We offer assessment, and after assessment, we offer 7 sessions of treatment based on psychoeducation, behavioral activation for the treatment of low mood, problem solving, and cognitive restructuring to challenge negative thoughts, and finally, relapse prevention. So in the progress beat, we can see the scores in ARCAD. So ARCAD is a self-report questionnaire which assesses young people's symptoms of anxiety and depression. So it is not a diagnostic tool, but we use it alongside other outcome measures and assessment to identify the main difficulties that the children and young people are experiencing and decide on the most appropriate support that we can give and the most appropriate evidence-based treatment. And it also allows us to monitor the progress. So as we can see here, this young person presented with general worries, so general anxiety, panic symptoms, fear and fear around social situations, obsessions and compulsions, low mood. So there were a few of the scales that he scored above the clinical cutoff. And by the end of the treatment, we can see how that reduced considerably, and the young person didn't have those symptoms anymore. And the other outcome measure that we use is goal-based outcomes, which we use to monitor the feelings of closeness to the goal. We always set up a goal at the beginning of the treatment. It is basically a goal, just what they want to achieve by the end of treatment. And we can see that this young person achieved their goal. So another case study was a 15-year-old girl presenting with worry, panic, and separation anxiety. We offer 8 sessions of psychoeducation, worry management, graded exposure, cognitive restructuring, and relapse prevention. As we can see on the archives, this young person was presenting high scores in worry, panic symptoms, and low mood. By the end of treatment, most of them reduced, but as we can see, worry about our families of separation anxiety was still a little bit high. That's why it's important we do relapse prevention, and it's a big important part of our treatment, as we just create a plan in relapse prevention with them, so they can continue the progress that they've made so far. And finally, we have a 13-year-old male presenting with anxiety and panic. This was having an impact on friendships and family relationships. So we offer 6 sessions of psychoeducation, behavioral activation, worry management, problem solving, and relapse prevention. And in progress, we can see the progress that he made.
Hi, so I'm just going to talk about some of the feedback we've received. And obviously it's really important to sort of get that feedback from young people and parents, and that we don't just have obviously the numbers, but we also have the verbal and written feedback as well. So it's really nice to see, you know, what we're doing well as a service, but also what bits we can develop on and sort of improve in our service. So what I've got here is just a word cloud. So all the feedback that we gained in those 6 months was put together with the keywords, key phrases. And the idea here is that the larger the word is, the more commonly that has been used. So I think it's really nice to see here that the biggest one is thank you and sort of support, help, good. And it's sort of really nice to see that we have had a positive impact on those children and young people, and that they've made sort of positive progression throughout sessions, and hopefully will continue to do so after they've been with our service as well.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about the role of the primary mental health workers. So we've currently got 2 primary mental health workers in the team at the moment. There's myself and Jenny. So I joined about a month ago, just over a month ago, so I'm relatively new to the role. And Jenny's been working with the team for about a year, I'd say. So Jenny's been through the whole journey of the EMHPs, and then I've come into it as they're finishing their training, which is quite nice for me. So what Jenny's been doing over the last year or so, she's been supporting the EMHPs with their training and just giving them advice and supervision for their role. And she's also been making links with the schools, attending meetings, just to spread awareness of our service, really. And then, like I said, with the CAMS referral meetings as well, I've been attending them with Jenny since I've started as well, so that we were aware of the referral criteria, and then we can signpost to CAMS, and CAMS can send some down to us as well. So me and Jenny, we can also do one-to-one sessions as well. We can do group work, and we're hoping to offer some training to the staff in schools as well. And going forward, we're just hoping to kind of build on those links, really. And obviously, like I said before, the EMHPs have finished their training as well. So hopefully we'll be able to work together and push the service forward.
Okay, thanks, Aisha. So the future of the mental health support team. So as you know, we are a team that have come together, and we have a set amount of time to kind of work as much as we can and do as much work as possible. So what are we looking for the future of the service? Well, we aim to continue to receive referrals, support the referral process as we have been doing, but also to adapt where there's need. We're obviously in a very new normal, and we want to make sure that we're supporting schools as much as possible to make sure that those young people are being referred. We also want to work closely with schools. We kind of had a year of training and we didn't totally become embedded within the school community, and that's really the aim of the role, to be part of the fabric of the school. So that's something we're aiming to continue to work on and develop. We also obviously want to continue developing our relationships with schools. I feel we've got some really good relationships with the schools in East Staffs, and we want to continue that good work. We've also got reaching as many children and young people as possible. We want to continue delivering treatments and continuing to have a really positive impact on children and young people's mental health and well-being. So what about the future? Well, if we could share our hope for the future, it would be to continue our service. It's so needed in schools. We really feel we have lots of feedback and lots of evidence that shows that we are a really necessary service. And at the moment we are providing a suitable provision, but we really want to continue developing that and move with the times and make sure that we are being used to our full potential, and obviously continue to our service beyond this point.
So David put a question on there about how we've stayed so motivated and creative during what has been a very difficult year. I've replied, and I'm sure the entire team will echo this, but we've been very, very lucky. We're a very supportive team of each other, and we have a private WhatsApp group aside from kind of your normal work emails, and we have each other's backs. You know, it hasn't always been easy. There's been quite times when we've all been quite lonely, having to think of the new normal and be creative. I think the word creative's been thrown about an awful lot over lockdown, but we're just we've just been a really good team. I think very mixed, but it's just been brilliant.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a thing, the fact that we're all very, very different, and actually I've found watching other people's ways of working, because we all come from such different backgrounds. We've all got very different sort of approaches and attacks on things, but it tends to kind of spur everyone on and like take practice from each other, which is really great.
I just think it's really remarkable how positive everyone's been and how people have embraced all of the challenges we've had and still come up with something, you know, really meaningful, which is making a difference to young people's lives in such a strange time.
Yeah, I think we've all, you know, it feels like we've all lived another life before we came here. Yeah. And we've all brought those skills in, and I think we're all here for the same reason, and that's what really drives us as a team, the fact that our goal is the same, and no matter what happens, no matter what doesn't go right, computers not working, resources all over the shop, it doesn't matter. We'll be like, we'll just email it to each other, we'll figure it out. Like, we're incredibly closely, we work so close together remotely. It is, I'm so proud of us. I think we do so incredible. Well.
Were there any other questions, Leanne?
I don't have a question, more just an observation. Having seen you develop and grow from the start, I just think it's really impressive to see how much you've managed to do this year in the challenges of technology, and just seeing that summarised in your slides is absolutely brilliant, guys. You're just absolutely amazing. I feel quite emotional. I feel quite proud of you. It's just brilliant. Well done, like a real well done. Fantastic.
I must admit, we wouldn't have been able to do it without you guys, Sab and Rachel. You've been supporting from the very start, and your knowledge has been, I think that's inspired the entire team, and it's pushed us forward each time. So thank you both as well.
You've been brilliant, lovely, thank you.
Okay, so experiences. Now, in the break, we've had some really, really amazing comments in the feedback. So thank you very much. I think the whole team would agree that it's so nice to hear from you what your experience has been, especially the positives. But obviously, we're always open to improve and develop. So if there's anything you were kind of concerned about or anything like that, then always just email the mental health support team email with anything like that, and we can look at it. So school experiences from our mental health leads that we've had from today, not from today, but that I'll present to you today. So this is a lovely bit of feedback from a mental health support team that we work with at Paget. So the MHST have been an integral part of Paget High School's mental health strategy this year. Their knowledge and guidance has been invaluable to the school and its students. One of our students commented that they helped me to cope with my anxiety and gave me the mechanisms to use when feeling anxious. Another student said the techniques that were offered to them definitely helped them feel better about themselves. The EMHPs have been a valuable resource for the school and have enabled us to get swift and timely support to many more students that are struggling with anxiety, low mood and general health concerns, mental health concerns. They have been an essential part of the school's wellbeing team and look forward to working closely with them in the future to support young people's mental health and wellbeing. So that's a really, really nice bit of feedback. And I think that the most important bits from this are what we actually did, which was to help young people cope with their difficulties and to give them strategies, because that's something that they can take with them forever.
Shall I just read these out?
Yeah, I think Sarah has lost connection.
Okay. So could I just take a moment of your time to thank you and your team for the great support you are continuing to offer to the boys at Loxley Hall. It's very much appreciated both from the staff and parents of the boys you're supporting, and that's from a mental health lead at Loxley Hall School. And then thank you for everything you're doing to support us, our fabulous children and their families, from the staff at Anglesey Primary.
Okay, so now we're just going to look at some of the sort of experiences that young people and parents have had and what they've said to us. So sort of some really nice positive comments here about the team being knowledgeable and supportive, helping that young person to understand, you know, why they were feeling why they did and how best to support them at that extremely difficult time. So that's from one of our parents from when we will have done a parent session. Also another comment about sort of the sessions being extremely helpful, again helping to understand, you know, why they were feeling low, what they could do about it, and that's from one of our young people. And again, just reflecting on sort of the difficulties that we've had this year and COVID, saying that the mental health practitioner went above and beyond to help the family. We're flexible, you know, taking the case after working hours to accommodate us. Obviously, in the circumstances, we've tried to be as flexible as we possibly can with the circumstances being so strange this year. And just saying that, you know, the listening was really good there and the connection as well. Nothing was too much trouble and we felt supported as a family. So some really lovely feedback that we've had there from parents and young people. And this was just a note from another professional about our service. So again, you know, it's not just the schools, the parents and people, but actually other professionals as well. It's been really nice to hear what their thoughts have been on the service as well. So sort of saying that we're a vital and key way forward, that we're a passionate, you know, engaging team that understand the need for the service. And the impact that service will have on, you know, preventing sort of complex mental health issues in the future and improving quality of life now by giving them those strategies and that support, and sort of saying that you know, it's going to play a key role in children's mental health and will need expanding in all areas, and it's sort of like making sure we've got the workforce to be able to cater for that need as well. And it's just really nice to have that message of sort of good luck and support from another professional.
So we'd just like to invite Neil to say a few words.
Thanks, thanks very much, Sab, and I'm really pleased for the invitation. My diary said I was simply doing an introduction for 5 minutes at the beginning, but I'm so pleased I've been able to stay with you, and you know, thanks, because it's easy for someone like me to say thank you, and I guess that's what I'm paid to do. But when you see the depth and when you see what you've achieved and how you've achieved it, you know, it really is, well, it's a major shot in the arm for me on a Monday morning. And I've heard all sorts of things mentioned about positivity, the fact that you're auditing, etc. So with your permission for 5 minutes, I'm going to go off piece and say what I really want to say to build on what you've been said, as opposed to a bit of a rallying cry, if that's all right. So thanks for the invitation. You know, we work with a lot of other agencies, whether we call them schools through education or whether we call them prisons, etc. But the thing I've learned, Saab, over the years, it's down to relationships. And we can play with words, but it's down to partnerships and it's down to partnering. And I just wondered if the team was challenged over the next 12 months, what would that partnership with education, with young people, what would the partnering actually bring? How would we really be better together? Then that's a gentle challenge I would place to the system and the team, because maybe I'm jaundiced, but I think head teachers and their senior staff are very instrumental in all of this. And if we really do have the most effective type of partnering and partnership, then I really do think we can change lives and families' dynamics around. Now, I'm stating the obvious, you know that, I know that, but it's no good just having some committed partnerships. How do we ensure the weakest become as good as the strongest over a period of time? It's been said on this set of presentations thus far, we're in unprecedented times. Well, of course we are. And people like me are being bombarded with statistics morning, noon and night. COVID has had an impact. And, you know, COVID for me is steady state in all sorts of ways. But if you want to use the statistics around education and children, we've seen a 60% plus incidence nationally in children, in young people self-harming and dramatically taking their own lives. Now, I think we've got to be absolutely clear where we're prioritising our resources, how we're working with our commissioners and our partners, as I've said. From my clinical experience, and most of you who know my clinical experience know it's at least 25 years out of date, but if I've kept up to date with the literature, etc., it's about early intervention. And I think, as I've heard mentioned several times today, it's not just about working with the individual, polarizing it around the individual. It's working with the family. It's working with all of the agencies that impact on that young person and their circumstances. So how do we really work with our commissioners, with our partners, to look at that biological, that psychological, that social, that spiritual? Because my opinion is very, very clear. It's often the child responding to circumstances. It's not often about a diagnosable mental illness. In fact, my sense is if the services you're providing work effectively, our waiting time should reduce significantly because we're not having inappropriate referrals. You're managing at the most appropriate level, and the only people that are moving on are those that really do need a different type of approach. And my sense, through improved access to psychological therapies, if it's done properly, and congratulations to all of you who've undertaken further training, fingers crossed that the results all go the right way from listening to you, and without being sycophantic, I'm sure it will go the right way. But you know, you have the power to change families' lives, to co-produce with families. And that to me is what's fundamentally important here, Saab. We're thinking about that whole set of dynamics and not just the dynamics that are sitting in front of us and presenting. So one of the things, again, I'd like to put a gentle challenge in. The biological approaches, the psychological approaches, they're well documented, they're evidence-based. But as you move forward and become more sophisticated as a service, what will those social needs look like? What will those spiritual needs look like? And often when I talk about the spiritual needs, I'm not talking about, I'm often accused of talking about a religious dimension. I couldn't be further from the truth. When I talk about the spiritual needs, what I'm really trying to convey is that message. What is important to you? What is important to me? How do I respect you? How do you respect me? How do we bring that together? And for me, I think where services like your own can really lead by example is challenging what the whole system does around meeting the spiritual needs of young people. I think you have had a special type of training. You obviously all come from different backgrounds together. And if you harness that energy, then that seems to me it is a real force for good. I was encouraged, I think Leanne either said or posted, that schools have been great. And that really is, to me, very, very exciting, as I say, if you go back to the partnering arrangements. I suppose what I'd like to finish on with the 5 minutes or so that was allocated to me, and I won't take too much time up, is, so what are your needs into the future? So as you sit down and undertake your individual reviews, what is it the organisation can do to support you? Because I'm absolutely clear, and I'm certainly not saying it for effect, if you get it right in partnership, you stop the next generation of mental health graduates coming into our adult services. So what is it someone like me and the system has to do to support you to take it to the next level, so we're managing the vast majority of young people and families at a way that works for them without having to escalate it, because we know there are significant impacts when services get escalated and they're not always positive. So thank you for what you're doing. There are a couple of challenges through audit. What will you do differently? Through partnership and partnering, what will you be able to do differently? But this organisation, Midlands Partnership Foundation Trust, has a duty to support you. And my sense is you have to be a priority. I really believe, the board believes, we have to invest in our children and young people's services disproportionately, and I give a commitment that that's what we'll do, and your service in terms of mental health support team will be a priority. So that's all I wanted to say. I'm happy to be challenged, but thank you very much indeed for listening to me. Thanks, Sab.
Thanks, Neil. I think there's a real valid message in that I totally believe that we need a whole system approach, and it won't just be us as a mental health service or just schools being able to support young people and ensure that they don't experience difficulties. I think we're at a pivotal point in this service, and I think that's the importance for us being able to hold this event to make sure that we are able to now plan for the year going ahead. It is a 2-year project, and we're very aware that we've got to sort of pull our socks up this year and really work as a service as a whole to make sure that young people's needs are met across East Staffordshire. Some of the challenges that we are facing a little bit are the fact that we're not in all schools across East Staff. So it is a trailblazer. It was a 2-year funded project, but I think the impact that's been made so far has been great, but I think there's still a lot of work to do. We are meeting as a team next week to think about what we are going to plan sort of moving forward, and I think it'd be great to give you some feedback of the plan and sort of how things go moving forward. But as Kay's already mentioned, we do work quite closely with partners as a whole, both internally within MPFT and externally, but I still agree there's a lot more we can be doing to ensure young people don't need to be coming into services.
Yeah. And Saab, I don't know if it's helpful, but as you do what you're doing and as you're building the evidence base and a case for sustainability of such services, are you drawing on all of the resources of the Trust from our research development team? Because I'm sure they would be able to bring something to the party to support you in terms of being objective, you know, looking at the evidence and what difference is your service having on the lives of young people and their families. So don't be shy in calling down resources of the Trust, because they are there for you.
Definitely, thank you. And thank you for your time. I'm sorry if the message was to give a 5-minute talk at the beginning, but no, thank you for
Not at
sticking
all.
around.
It's been very informative for me. So as I say, very easy to say thank you. And if you don't mind, I'll just go back onto silent mode, but I'll stay until the end of your session. So thank you very much.
Brilliant.
Indeed.
Thanks, Neil.
So I'm just going to talk about our week ahead. So this week is our launch week. And actually, I guess it kind of fits in a little bit with Neil's challenge to us. How are we going to go forward and how are we going to partner with the people that we work with? So for this week, what we have planned is celebrating our service, becoming a fully fledged service, based on the 5 ways to wellbeing. So these are concepts that if you kind of integrate them into your life, the evidence behind them suggests that it improves your wellbeing. So we've taken one of each of those 5 ways. So taking notice, being active, connecting, giving, and keeping learning. And each day is based around one of those concepts. And for teachers, we've sent out a big resource pack with a student resource, a teacher resource based around that way to wellbeing. And we'll be making a post on our social media every day with a tip for parents and how they can integrate that way to wellbeing at home. So we're hoping that our schools that follow us on social media can retweet that so that we can connect with more parents and carers over the week. So we sent out the resources last week actually, and I think testament to kind of the value of our service is that we've actually had a teacher from a school in a different area that we don't work in email us. So teachers have been communicating across their professional networks and sharing the resources we made, and the teacher that emailed was very complimentary about our resources, asked us about the possibility of mental health support teams supporting them within their area. So that's, you know, a really nice thing to hear, really. So just to give you a bit of a taster, I'm just going to have to share a different screen because I'm not sure if this is, oh no, very good. Technology, yay. I'm just going to share with you one of the child resources that we've sent over. So we've not been prescriptive about the way that teachers use these resources, but we've said that, you know, if they want to maybe play one of these videos each morning that explains the concept during tutor time or register time, and then they can either use the other activities that we've made or brainstorm as a class ways that they can make that way to wellbeing more sort of prominent in their lives. So I'll just play you this as a bit of an example. Let me know if the sound doesn't work.
It's not working, is it?
Is when you share, you have an option to share your computer audio as well.
Is that what's going wrong?
Yeah, so it's like a square button bottom left, I think, from memory, that says share computer audio. It's also in advanced, I think, from memory.
Yeah, it's not letting me do that at the moment. One moment. Here we go. Take 2.
So today our way to wellbeing is to be active. Being active doesn't necessarily just mean playing sports every day if that's not what you're into. Although physical activity is great for your body and mind, it's more about active and making sure you're busy doing things that matter most to you. This helps you to get more out of life and feel fantastic. So really, we can think of being active as more as being busy. Our team often talk about the idea that your thoughts and what you do have a big impact on your mood. Negative thoughts and avoiding things that scare you can lead to feeling more sad and anxious, and the opposite's true as well. Thinking more positive thoughts and being more active and engaged in life can lead to feeling more happy and relaxed. Being busy is proven to help when people feel sad because you have more evidence for positive thoughts and feelings than you do if you're staying in bed doing nothing all day. Being busy helps you to take notice, like we talked about yesterday, and stay in the moment, like our way to wellbeing from yesterday. This can help you feel relaxed rather than worrying about the future and things that might not even happen. Being busy also helps you to feel tired enough in your body and brain so that you're ready for bed at the end of the day. Getting good quality sleep is a really, really important mood booster. Some people like doing something creative like drawing or singing the best. Other people prefer playing sports on their own because it makes them feel great physically. Others might prefer team sports because it helps them to connect with other people, which will be one of our ways to wellbeing later in the week. Today, we have some worksheets with lots of ideas for activities to give you inspiration for how to be active going forward. Have a look through to pick out activities that you'd like to plan in for yourself and then talk it through as a big group with your class. Perhaps if you have any in common, maybe you can arrange to do them together. Good luck, keep in touch with us on Twitter and Facebook, and we'll see you tomorrow.
So that was Tuesday's video, which gives you a bit of an idea of the resources that we've sent out to teachers. So earlier I mentioned participation for young people as one of the CYP IAPT,
Principles.
The word gone, but never mind, you know what I mean. So as far as participation goes, this week on Wednesday for Connecting, Christina will be connecting with children and young people in a live participation workshop over Zoom. We're also, in terms of participation, launching the logo competition. So we're having our logo redesigned by the young people that we work with in schools. We are accepting entries to our team inbox, which actually I can, oh, it wasn't on here, never mind. Our team inbox, we can share that with you. And we'll be selecting a winner, and there'll be a prize for the winner, and the logo will be chosen going forward. So you can see how we're really kind of sticking to those principles of IAPT. I remembered the word there, principles. So here you can see our Twitter and Facebook handle. So please follow us throughout the week. You'll be able to see our parents' tips and hopefully share them further afield. The teacher that got in touch with me about our resources from a different area, I let them know to follow us because we do regularly post more resources around wellbeing. So yeah, that's me done now. Thank you.
Thanks, Izzy. We are at the end of our workshop. Thank you all for attending. It's been great to hear further feedback and also have the opportunity to share with you what the past year has been like for the team. I just wanted to end the presentation just by a few thank yous, really. So I think it's important to acknowledge our CCG commissioners who had put the bid in for the funding for this service, and also the local authority commissioners for working in partnership with us to create and develop the service. Our schools for coming on board, attending our steering group meetings, lots of guidance and feedback of how we can develop and increase referral numbers and capacity into the service. and also to help us understand what their challenges were returning to school after their summer holidays and the COVID lockdown, so that we could be effective over the summer break to make sure that schools were getting the support that they required. And also wider stakeholders. I think we've had a lot of input from teams within our own organisation as well as external services. So we'd like to thank you all for the support, because we couldn't have managed over the last year without the guidance and support that we have received. And also MPFT as an organisation for hosting, for giving us the opportunity to be able to support children and young people in East Staffordshire. We are also due to launch a new team in January 2021 in Cannock, in the Cannock's Chase area. So again, we'll be taking on the learning that we've developed in this past year and developed the service in Cannock, and hopefully expand into all of our CCG areas eventually. And also, just to finally finish off, a massive thank you to the team. Your creativity and inspiration has been amazing over this past year. We have had a turnover of staff, we have had a number of EMHPs, we've had some admin staff leave, you've had a change in team lead as well, but I think you've all taken it, you've all taken a responsibility and really stepped up in ensuring that the service continues, and your enthusiasm just to make sure children and young people get the service that they really need has been inspirational. And as Rachel said, it is great to, because we have been involved from the very beginning, just to see how you've all grown as individuals, and we really appreciate the energy that you've brought to the service. So yeah, a huge thank you to you all.